War II, where the atrocities of the Holocaust and the beginning of the atomic age signify yet another major shift in the destiny of mankind.
Anytime, there's several million people being killed or burnt to death or misplaced geographically or starving to death or things like that, if you're a true prophet, that would be the events that you would pay a lot of attention to. And if you were humanistic, then you'd want to warn people about that the best that you could.
As we look at his prophecies, we can see that he knows that something very big is on the horizon.
We're standing at a crossroads. We seem to have gone down a path that Nostradamus predicted as a peculiarly bad future. No good end in sight.
The most chilling images of the lost book are yet to come. A startling series of prophetic pictures that are believed to reveal in terrifying detail the date and time of a coming event that results in our ultimate destruction. Content indeed. In fact, they believe it foretells the coming of the ultimate evil. For if the lost book is a testament to trial and tribulation, describing martyrs, terrorists, and Armageddon-like religious wars, there is yet one figure most feared in all prophetic writing of any age. Nostradamus researchers see a progression of the lost book images that follows a turbulent trajectory. Lengthy world conflicts and bloody religious battles leading up to the present climate that is dangerously ripe for a final showdown. They believe that the book suggests that this epic fight for dominance will be sparked by the arrival of the figure most reviled and feared by man, the Antichrist. Perhaps no word in the English language combines such a blood-chilling blend of the divine and the devil.
In this plate, we have a papal chalice as the centerpiece. And it appears to be repelling a serpent that is spitting out 3 drops of blood. The serpent represents evil and is perhaps symbolic of either Nostradamus' third Antichrist or perhaps the Antichrist from the Holy Bible.
In order for this age to end, someone has to end it. And that person could be called the Antichrist. It wouldn't surprise me if a Prince of Peace, who's really a Prince of War, comes and eradicates the last vestiges of the culture that existed for thousands of years.
Nostradamus talks at length in several places about the Antichrist. 3 Antichrists, in fact.
There's the theme of his 3 Antichrists, Napoleon being the first, Hitler being the second. His third Antichrist appears to be a Muslim from an Asian nation.
Nostradamus's references to a third Antichrist imply an evolution through time of this ultimate incarnation of evil.
The watercolor depicting the sun and the griffin carrying the papal crook in its feet represents the arrival of the future Antichrist. And there will be great trouble for the clergy which follows in the wake of this individual's arrival. The sun seems to represent a transformation. And to me, it appears that it greatly foreshadows the arrival of this much-feared third Antichrist of the future.
The sun always represents astrological wisdom. The head of the dragon and the sword on the front part of the dragon represent supreme power. The dragon also is the representation of the sign of Capricorn, which is in Christian theology the head of the devil or the Antichrist.
But this is not the only connection to the half-man, half-beast that the lost book contains.
Image 16 is the classic image of the Antichrist. And it connects to this verse due to the Phrygian hat, the cap that the Antichrist is wearing, which is the connection to Dacia and Hungary, where once Attila ruled, and so forth.
The current bloody tug of war between the radical strains of the world's major religions gives Nostradamus' apocalyptic view an eerie plausibility. And some fear that Nostradamus may be emphasizing the inescapable nature of this conflict by weaving images of the Antichrist into a number of the lost book images.
We have the crescent moon, which is the symbol for Islam. And underneath the dragon, underneath the galaxy, is fire. And what this means is that when we come into this great alignment of the center of the galaxy with the sun, the Earth is going to be tried by fire, and there will be a great war.
The progressing storyline of the images hint darkly that the Lost Book's release into the mainstream media at this time may be no accident. The arrival of the Antichrist figure, whether from the religious or political realms, will be a time of great misery, Nostradamus writes, and will instigate a final war of ultimate destruction.
In this play of his Century 10 quatrains, it would definitely be Osama bin Laden. He would be considered the Antichrist. He's the one who creates the terrorism. He's the one who's going to create an apocalypse no matter how it's going to happen.
These drawings are explicit evocations of the events that are going to happen in the future, many of them obscure in the drawings, so that we could find the book right before the end of the age and then use the book to figure out how the age is going to end.
After centuries hidden in obscurity, the Lost Book and the mystery that surrounds it is close to being solved. The forensics team at the Studio Chrysostomy begins to draw some conclusions.
The research that has been conducted told us that this type of fleur-de-lis watermark drawing was available in Rome on paper that was used from the 16th century up to the 18th century.
This finding is encouraging and matches up with Nostradamus' 16th century lifetime. The testing of the ink, however, provides a surprising twist.
The ink on the last page of the book shows a strong presence of zinc. Zinc, up until the end of the 18th century, was a very rare and costly element. A very high presence of zinc leads us to believe that the last page was written after...
Michel Chomerat is a respected Nostradamus archivist and an expert on the seer's handwriting. He and Maria Fadiga examine the writing.
There are the graphic elements. If you look at a G and start to search for it inside the text, or a P, or in any case, any consonant that dives beneath a line, it is evident enough that I am going
After
to...
careful comparison, the specialists conclude that the handwriting in the Lost Book is neither Nostradamus's nor Caesar's. But this important fact remains. Nostradamus's name is on the book, and he is clearly listed as the author in the library's first written records of the book's acquisition in the 1800s.
It's entirely likely that in some obscure library, maybe in Ceylon, maybe in Avignon, the manuscript survived from its original creation through copyists. It was copied as it got dog-eared and time-worn, and copied again. And as it was copied, certain components were forgotten. They could reproduce them, but they didn't quite know what they meant.
The complex journey of this manuscript through time makes one thing clear. It has been treated as an item of great importance, worthy of copying and safeguarding for hundreds of years. If time has erased definitive proof of the true origins of the manuscript, there yet remain those who firmly believe that Nostradamus is the writer of this book, and that it is his son, Caesar, who in turn passes it on for posterity. The inscription on the last page of the book reinforces its forbidden status, stating that it has been given by monks to Cardinal Barberini, who is in charge of the Vatican Library.
No one from the church would have allowed anyone else outside the church to have seen this. Barberini turned it over to people that he could trust to interpret it.
Some believe that the manuscript's remaining 7 images alone show just cause for the book's suppression, that they expand on the mysterious one-mail text and spell out with alarming precision when and how mankind's worst nightmare may come true. Nostradamus researchers point to image 66, the first of the sequence. The sun is prominent, highlighting its importance in the dating of the coming Earth-changing event. 67 indicates that the constellation of Ophiuchus will play a role.
The next image moves us a little bit further ahead of time. It shows the 8-rayed star, the 8-spoked wheel at the top with the banner. And it also shows the tree of life being impinged upon by some monster. In the sky, if you drew a line from the stinger of the scorpion to the tip of Sagittarius's arrow, the line would go directly through the center of the galaxy. The space between Scorpio and Sagittarius becomes very, very important. In this image, with the addition of the paschal lamb, the lamb of Revelation, there's the notation that this represents the end of time. In this image, we see again the 8-spoked wheel at the top. I should perhaps explain why the 8-spoked wheel is so important. In the sky, there's a great cross that does not move, and it's formed by, from the center of the galaxy to the edge of the galaxy, and from the center point of our celestial equator to the southern point of the celestial equator. That's the divine cross. Down here on the ground, we have the mundane cross that is formed by the angles between equinox and solstice and so forth. So the 8-armed cross, the 8-rayed star, the 8-armed cross, the 8-wheeled spoke, represents the alignment in space and time of the divine cross above and the terrestrial mundane cross below. Now, curiously enough, this alignment only happens once every 13,000 years.
These crosses have not aligned since 11,000 BCE, roughly 13,000 years ago, meaning the phenomenon is now poised to occur again.
The next image in the series is the end-all and be-all of the whole sequence. It shows the exact time when the apocalypse is going to happen. At the top, we see our alignment of divine cross and terrestrial cross. Below that, we see 3 eclipses connected to an eclipse of the moon. If we look for 3 solar eclipses within a time period that is also bound by very significant lunar eclipses, we come up with a 20-year time period from 1992 to 2012.
Ancient and modern